Welcome to another episode of Executive Health and Life. I'm your host, Julian Hayes II, back at it again. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. And as you know, or if this is just your first time, the goal here is to have you become the CEO of your health and your life. To have you not only live longer, but to live better and to experience a richer life. Now, today I'm going to be talking about exercise. And not why you should do it or why you should do more of it. You don't need that talk. That's not what we have here. Anyone listening to this show or watching this isn't someone who needs to get motivated, isn't someone who needs to get motivated to get off the couch or anything like that. After all, you are someone who's getting after it in your career, whether that's in corporate or whether that's within your own business or whether that's on the investing side of things. You're getting after it. There's always things for you to do. Motivation is the last thing that's on your mind. So the type of exercise that I'm going over today is a metric that is often overlooked, and it is VO2 max. Now, oftentimes when we think about VO2 max, we think about this being important for athletes. But I have two reminders when it comes to that notion that this is only important for athletes and non-athletes, civilians, etc. shouldn't think about this. Two things. Number one is you are an athlete. Yes, you listening. Yes, you watching right now. You are an athlete, whether you realize it or not. Business is a 24/7 sport that has no off season. Deals are always available. You can always review properties. So no matter your professional discipline, there's work to be done. And it's essential that you are at your best because it's a competition out there. It's a 24/7 sport. Secondly, VO2 max and longevity have some connections with each other. And the best part about this is VO2 max is a easy and affordable tool to improve that's going to give you a huge bang for your buck. It's not going to cost you hundreds of dollars like some of the other beneficial interventions that are out there now. The only thing it's going to cost you is your time. But the time that you put in greatly rewards you on the other end. Just like the time you spend investing, the time you spend studying the markets, properties, etc. The time you spend on that is going to exponentially compound and benefit you on the back end. So as we get ready to dive into this, let's start with what is actually VO2 max when you hear it. Well, if we want a formal definition to start with is it's the maximum volume of oxygen that your body can import, transport, and then utilize in a single minute during intense physical activity. Now, if you want to expand this a little more, your VO2 max is the number that describes your cardiorespiratory fitness. It's a single number that comprehensively captures your heart, your lungs, your circulatory system, and muscle cells that are all working independently and together. And it should be no surprise that your VO2 max is connected to your health, your performance, and your longevity. A higher VO2 max generally means, let's start over. A higher VO2 max is generally better than a lower VO2 max. Pretty much 99% out of 100% out, almost 100% out of the time. Very, very extreme cases, which I haven't really seen, but I tend to not speak in absolutes. So we'll leave that little margin there. A higher VO2 max means that your body is better at taking oxygen from the air and is delivering it to your muscles. The more oxygen your muscles can get, the more nutrients you can aerobically transform into ATP. And this your muscles can then use to contract, do their thing, and perform. And this is important because your aerobic metabolic pathways are by far your most efficient source of energy for your body. Now, unfortunately, as we chronologically get older, our performance tends to dip. It's estimated that our peak fitness potential is around age 20, which is kind of hard to believe. 20? Really? And then from there, though, our fitness is expected, keyword in quotes, expected, It's expected to decline around 5 to 20% per decade in healthy individuals between the ages of 20 and 65. However, though, these cardiorespiratory losses can be managed through healthy lifestyle choices, consistent, and most importantly, intentional physical activity. So, as we get older, typically, our hearts cannot beat as fast as they could when we were younger. Our body's just not efficient, it's just not as effective anymore. The force at which your heart beats to push this oxygenated blood to the muscles, it's also decreasing. But as with aging in general, as with our performance, we can easily do something about this. The good news about VO2 max and aging is that for the most part, the accelerated fitness, this is usually from people who are very, very sedentary. This is not from people who are active, not from people who are getting after it. So this means that people with proper care can improve your fitness. People with proper care and attention to detail can feel younger and more energetic as they, quote unquote, age chronologically. And most importantly, you can maintain your edge and your status with proper care. Now, what I wanted to do is I'm going to show you some of the benefits of exercising here. So those that are watching or watching it on, I think you can watch it on Spotify now as well, these videos, you'll see a chart here. And for those that are just listening on the other platforms, I will describe some of the benefits here. So I have up right now, I have a chart of the benefits of exercise, and both from a physical standpoint, a physiological standpoint, and then also from a benefit of aging. Now, as you remember, the last episode, I believe, I talked about the new 12 hallmarks of aging, and there's 12 now. My skills in terms of designing is not that good, so a little of the images here are cut off. But anyway, I put this up here, and I'm talking about this because exercise, in my opinion, is still underrated in terms of just how beneficial it is. It's looking here, exercising, improving your lung functioning, exercise, improving your cardiovascular functioning, your blood pressure, blood flow, blood regulation, endothelial functioning, autonomic functioning, vagal tone, HRV. It's helping your brain, neurogenesis, decreasing neurodegeneration, and decreasing cognitive alterations. So you're keeping your brain sharp just by exercising, creating new neurons by exercising, keeping your heart strong and healthy just by exercising. Muscle functioning. So your endurance, your muscle quality, your balance and mobility. Think about this. As you get older, one of the things that takes out people older is their falls. Now, this is, people in their 80s and 70s, 80s, and 90s, of course, but just falling is a dangerous thing for people if you don't have the bone quality, if you don't have balance and mobility and body composition, which is cut off here. Exercising is helping with body composition, your fat-free mass, your muscle mass, your regional adiposity. That's different areas of your body talking about fat when you hear adiposity. And bone density is positively improving. I had a conversation yesterday where she asked me about weight loss. And I said, I don't really care about weight loss. I don't use that number, weight loss. I prefer to look at things like lean body mass, muscle mass, and bone density. These are the things that I track and measure. These are the things I look at because I know if these things are positively improving, the weight loss is going to take care of itself and it's much more beneficial in the long run. Lastly, there's metabolism. Just simply exercising. You're going to improve your resting metabolic rate, fat oxidation, and your muscle protein synthesis. And that's beneficial because there are hallmarks of aging, in particular one, nutrient sensing. And genomic instability, telomere attrition. I'm not going to name all 12 again, but as you can see in the chart, and then as I went over last episode, exercising is it's the most valuable tool in your utility belt in terms of sustaining peak performance and maximizing longevity. You have to start with exercising. Don't not having looking for different biohacks and assortments like that is irrelevant if you're not taking advantage of just being active. So the next thing here I wanted to show is quickly the average VO2 max charts for men and women. They're going to be different. Of course, as you get older chronologically, these things can go down a little bit. And I have this chart here because it'll make sense when I talk about what you should be striving for or what is recommended in terms of your VO2 max. This chart will make more sense to use as a reference. And there's different charts that you can Google and look up for VO2 max as well. So I just wanted to kind of throw this here just to give you a ballpark idea. And I believe this one I'm showing is from the Cooper Institute, if I'm not mistaken. So now, VO2 max and longevity. There's a recent study in the Journal of Mayo Clinic Proceedings stated that your cardiorespiratory fitness level indicated by your VO2 max is an important factor in determining how long you might live. And the main study that a lot of people have shared over the last few years, and this is a big one, this study was done in 2018, and it consisted of 122,007 patients that had a baseline cardiovascular fitness values that followed the group between 4.3 to 13.4 years. It's very specific. And the median of this range was 8 years. Now, this is a huge study. So unfortunately, though, 13,637 patients died during the study period after over 1 million years of patient observation. This was a hardcore study, and this was some serious data that was collected. This was not anything fluffy at all, or just weak testing, or just a few numbers, and then that's the study. This was a very good study. People were grouped into one of 5 cardiovascular fitness categories. You had low, you had below average, you had above average, you had high, and you had elite. Low were the people who were scored in the bottom 25th percentile. Below average was 25th to 50th percentile. Above average was 50th to 75th percentile. High was 75 to 95 percentile. And elite was the top 5%. Now, the low, below average group, above average, and high, they each had about 30,000 participants. And the elite group had just over 3,500. Now, I'm going to show this thing here again, and I'll describe it a little bit. Now, I have up here, I have the chart for the comparisons of each group, and it also is going to describe some of the categories and the VO2 maxes and everything of what's considered elite and everything. And you'll see that these are different numbers compared to probably what you saw on the Cooper Institute one. So when you're looking at all-cause mortality and the survival probability chart here, actually, let me pull up another one. I want to, my bad. I just wanted to show that group here. Okay, now this one here. So what I'm showing now for those who are just listening through audio, there were 5 groups, and you're looking at the all-cause mortality and the survival probability. And this is what this chart was here. And there's a pretty clear trend between fitness and mortality. The biggest gap is between the low cardiovascular group here and the below average. It's the biggest gap. The smallest gap is, of course, which to no surprise, is between the high and the elite group. So this means that if you are in the low cardiovascular fitness category, you have the most to gain from making an improvement in this category. If you're already in the high category, increasing it further to the elite category isn't going to make as much of a difference in terms of the all-cause mortality. Now, for ego perspective, or maybe it's just me, if I'm just in the high, I'm probably going to aim for the elite just because it sounds like a good challenge. But this is about life here, all-cause mortality. If you're in this low group here, and I had the chart for the to show the numbers for that, you have the most to gain. Now, to put this further into perspective here, just to describe these groups here, going from low to below average, that's a 50% reduction in mortality over a decade. That's 10 years. This is not 1 year, not 2 years, not 3 years, but a decade. A decade is huge. And if you climb up one more category to the above average group, that's a 60 to 70% reduction in mortality over a 10-year span. That is some serious gains, serious potential progress that anyone can get if they just put some time into it. You can't make the excuse of money here. You can't have the disadvantaged background unless you have physical limitations or something. Even then, if you can't run, you can cycle. There's so many other different cardiovascular activities you can do, but nothing just out the ordinary. This is available to you. All this requires is sweat equity, intentional exercising in your time. That's all it requires. This is low-hanging fruit. This is low-hanging fruit. And, as we talk about performance and longevity, there's so many awesome interventions. There's so many tools that we can use, but we have to use the ones that are the low-hanging fruits, the ones that are easily available now. These can serve as our foundation. So when the other things get here, we can take those. This whole thing is about sequencing. And a lot of times people strive for the limitless pill. A lot of times people strive for the biohack, which is fine, but you have to do things in order or you're not going to get as much benefit out of them. It's all about sequencing. And this is something you're already exercising. Why not tweak things a little more or add a few things and take advantage of this? This is huge, 10 years. So someone of low fitness, a person of low fitness is going to have a 5-fold greater risk of mortality versus someone of elite fitness. That's not a small risk factor. And, this presents a very strong argument of why VO2 max might be the best data piece when it comes to these wearable technology gadgets that we have on our wrist or that we wear on our chest. Especially if you're a beginner. This is one of the reasons why I use wearable tech with clients. It's one of the reasons why I use a first beat assessment to get these initial numbers before starting, because they're easy numbers to get, easy to improve, not as time consuming as you might think as well. So it's a great number. Now, the next logical question that's probably coming to mind is what number you should be striving for. And when it comes to this, I'm going to borrow Dr. Peter Attia's rule here, or aspiration that he has his clients use. And it's to strive for his patients to be in the elite category for someone a decade younger. He has a new book out, by the way, which is it's a good read as well. So check that book out as well. I think it's called Outlive. I don't necessarily remember, but he has a new book out, has a great podcast as well. Fantastic material. Now, striving for elite category as someone a decade younger, that's a big ask. But, who said it will be easy? Starting your business wasn't easy. Practicing discipline, delaying gratification, making your investments, reviewing properties every day, building your career up in corporate, climbing the ladder. Who said that's not easy? Because if it was, everybody would be doing it. Everyone would be doing it. So it's a great aspiration. It's a great thing to strive for. Now, of course, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's something, it's a nice carrot to have dangling in your face. So how do you go about building and improving VO2 max? And once again, I like Dr. Tia's advice here. He says that's to spend around 80% of your aerobic time in zone 2. As you build that aerobic base up, that other 20% of the time can be spent in a much higher zone. So, and as you're in this much higher zone, this is what we kind of know as high intensity training. These are intervals in about 3 to 8 minutes. You're doing this activity, if you're at the 3-minute mark, you're doing this for 3 minutes as best you can, all out as you can for the 3 minutes. Or you're working yourself up to 8 minutes. And then you need like maybe 3 minutes of recovery to fully recover. So you do this cardio, this aerobic activity for a couple of days on top of lifting weights. One of those days, you can do cardio that's tough and exerts yourself in this high intensity range. For me, and he recommends a 4x4 method. That's 4 minutes on, 4 minutes of tough activity. I like that. There's numerous things that you could do with this. I, of course, do a lot of my aerobic work through running. But my higher intense work, I use this a lot. I use an Airdyne bike. It's the fan bike. And I think that's the single best cardio equipment there is. It's the single best thing is the Airdyne bike. I think it's undefeated. I think it's number one right now in my eyes. And the more and more I think about it and the more and more I use it each week, it's becoming far and away the top piece of equipment. It's easy on the joints. So even if you can't run or you got bad joints and an achy body, you can use this. So it's so easy on the body. You can, it's a full body exercise and it really taxes your system in a short amount of time. This reminds me, maybe I should do an episode on kind of my current training routine or talking about different things you can do with this. But, as we get ready to wrap this up a little bit here, there's a handful of things that you can do to build up your VO2 max. And these things can, of course, be integrated throughout your day-to-day life. Number one is to practice nasal breathing, as this helps increase your CO2 tolerance. I like using mouth tape as well at night. I've gotten really used to it now. I can't imagine going to sleep without taping my mouth. There's a lot of different brands out there, but taping your mouth is good. But, there's a few caveats with that. So check the caveats of that before using that. For some people, it's not ideal at this moment. But if you don't got nothing wrong with you or anything like that, or any type of serious issue, then it's a pretty cool tool. And you'll notice that your sleep improves. I don't have any dry mouth anymore. Some people had snoring problems. And my sleep quality has improved because I track my sleep, of course. So mouth tape is something very easy. Once again, low-hanging fruit to improve. Just training yourself to nasal breathe more and also improving your CO2 tolerance. Exercise in all forms is another one. As we've been talking about, high intensity, zone 2, strength training. You can try some fartlek runs. I do these once a week. This is where you speed up and you slow down at various times when you're running. So for me, I think this week, just to give you an example of what this looks like, I'm going to run for, I believe it's 60 minutes. Yeah, so it's 60 minutes. I have to look on mine. It's 60 minutes. And I'm going to run at a general, say, marathon pace, estimated marathon pace. And I'm going to run that pace. That's my goal, my average. Now, I have 10 intervals during this 60 minutes. And so I'm going to run hard for a minute of that, for 1 minute. And then my alarm goes off in my headset and I'm running at a more relaxed, comfortable pace for, I think, approximately like 4 minutes or so, like that. And then you do it, rinse and repeat again. And these are the sets I'm doing throughout this run. You, of course, can make different times, but this is just to give you a rough idea of what a fartlek run is. And lastly, get some high quality sleep. This is once again, low hanging fruit. big bang for your buck. It's going to help you in business, going to help you decision making, going to help you with your performance, going to help you with your physique. It's going to help your relationships. Every single thing is improved by optimal quality sleep. Now, as we wrap these things up here, I need to say this again. Before embarking on any serious type of training regimen, especially when it comes to your endurance, go get a checkup first. Go see what's under the hood. Go see how things are looking. And then you can get after it. And if you get your VO2 max score back and it's not where you want it to be, take it in stride. Use it as motivation to steadily improve over time. Look, my cardiovascular was not that good, to say the least, when I first began this. As people know, or this is your first time here, I am a newer athlete when it comes to the endurance world. I mostly lifted and play some basketball and box. So it was definitely an adjustment for me, but it's been a very fun ride with that. Now, if you would like to get some help, not only in improving your VO2 max, getting that measured, because I take care of that for you. I have you go somewhere you can get that measured. This is a metric that we test and measure, but also in general in helping you set up a detailed longevity and performance plan so you can have sustained peak performance and maximize your longevity. I encourage you to reach out for 30 minutes for a Connect call just to see if we're an ideal fit, learn a little more about each other, and then we can see and go from there. But nevertheless, thank you so much for listening. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're either watching this or you're listening to this right now, and I salute you and thank you. And until next time, stay awesome, be limitless, and as always, go be the CEO of your health and your life. Peace.